To make red velvet cake, I like to use the recipe from Divas Can Cook. I always double the recipe so I can get tall layers. I believe her recipe calls for like a cup of oil. So if I'm doubling it, it will be 2 cups of oil, except I will use like 3 sticks of butter and like a quarter cup of oil is my calculations for that. And so that's the recipe I tend to stick with. Her recipe also calls for hot coffee. You can use that. It makes the cake very delicious. Or if you don't have coffee, you can just use the hot water. But I love the red velvet recipe from Divas Can Cook. I just happen to sub mostly butter in the recipe when I do it. And then I'm going to make what is a cream cheese confetti buttercream. Okay, and so that's what I'm icing the cake with. This frosting is 2 sticks of butter, softened butter, and 1 8-ounce block of softened cream cheese. And to that, you're going to add, once you beat that until it's light and fluffy, you're going to add 2 pounds, a 2 pound bag of powdered sugar. And I normally add that a little at a time till I get it fully incorporated. And then I'll add like 2 to 3 tablespoons of heavy cream plus a tablespoon of vanilla extract and a half a tablespoon of cake batter extract. And that was what I make the buttercream out of. And once I get that all mixed, I will go in with about a half a cup to a cup of sprinkles, and I just stir them in. And that is the cream cheese confetti buttercream that you see me using here. So that's what I'm icing the cake with. After I get all this nice and ice, I'm going to do a ganache drip. Let me just jump in and say that once you get your cake completely iced, it is important to go ahead and set it in the refrigerator and let that chill for at least about 10 to 15 minutes before you add your drip. And then the ganache drip is simply 4 ounces of like a semi-sweet chocolate bar. I use Ghirardelli. So a whole 4-ounce bar of that with about a half a cup of hot heavy cream is what I use. And I'll get that mixed up and set to the side. So I want to say here that when I doubled the recipe, it gave me 3 nice tall layers. And I didn't use all 3 because I didn't want the cake too tall because I knew what I was putting on top of it. So I did crumble up one of the layers to use as a decoration, and that's what you see me doing here. But you don't have to do this. You could even add more sprinkles if you like. But I just wanted to kind of bring some tradition of red velvet to this non-traditional red velvet cake, if that makes sense. So here I am with the ganache drip. My cake is cold. Like I said, because once I put on the red velvet crumbs, I did stick it back in the refrigerator while I made the ganache. Now, I will say here, when I did this ganache, it was still a little bit too hot for my liking. I should have let it cool a little more, which is why you see it running the way it is. But it still ended up setting up pretty nice. And so either way, I was still pleased with it, but I didn't want it to run as much as it was. But I honestly know that that's because it was still a little too hot, and that's okay. It all works out in the end. Additionally, I want to say that I'm choosing to use a drip bottle, but you can use a spoon if that's all you have, or you can use a pastry bag. I've done it all the ways, and I have more control for me if I do it with the bottle. But I've done it with the spoon. I have videos with me just doing it with a spoon. I have videos with me doing it with a pastry bag. The pastry bag is my least favorite way. I don't feel like I have enough control for me. But you try it out and see which way works for you. So once I get all of the drip on the sides, I'm going to take the rest of the ganache and I'm going to just pour it in the center and end up just covering the entire top of the cake with the rest of the ganache. And then I have a small offset spatula that I'm going to use to spread it out. And once I get it all spread out, I am going to again set this back in the refrigerator because the next step is I want to work with my cookies. And for the cookies, I made some sandwich cookies. You'll see this bag of chocolate buttercream here. It's because I used the ganache that was left over that didn't fit in the bottle, and I mixed it with the buttercream that was left over to make this little chocolate frosting here, so I could make the sandwich cookies that were gonna go on the top of the cake. And I didn't do them all as sandwich cookies. I did leave some single, and I kind of regret that. I probably should have made them all sandwich cookies, but it really was just for pictures because no sooner my son came and got the cake, we ended up dismantling it and then slicing it up into slices because he took it to his friends and he wanted them already in slices. So just for decoration. So I'm going to use some more buttercream, and now we're going to decorate the top of this cake with some chocolate buttercream rosettes here. And I'm going to fashion some of these cookie sandwiches in between. Once I did put the cookie sandwiches on, I realized that my rosettes probably should have been a little taller. So you'll see me go in with my pastry bag once again, and I'll add a little bit more frosting to those rosettes to kind of make them a little bit taller. Trying to be a little dramatic here, trying to give it a little flair. I'm not the greatest at this when it comes to eyeballing stuff, but I made it work out. I ended up being very pleased with the results. The point of it is to make a cake that looks so delicious you can't wait to eat it, and that was the point of this. So see me actually adding to it, making them a little bit taller, and then I'm going to add on the rest of the cookies. So making the rosettes taller gave me a base to kind of anchor some more of the cookies in between the empty spaces, is what that was. And additionally, I'm using some more crumbs just to add some more color to the top of this cake. I love using the red velvet crumbs. It's just such a pretty sight. It's such a pretty color, and it's so festive. Easy cake. Anybody can make it. Everything on this cake is from scratch, and what's not to like? Even the cookies. I made the cookies using my basic chocolate chip cookie recipe, which is on my YouTube channel. The name of my YouTube channel is The Chef and the Baker RVA. So this is just my same basic cookie recipe, and I just made them a little bit smaller. Instead of using my normal cookie scoop, I normally use a 2-ounce cookie scoop. I have one that's smaller than that. I think it's about an ounce, and that's what I use. And of course they spread a little bit, so that gave me the smaller cookies that I needed, which were perfect for the top of this cake. Now, when it comes to transporting a cake like this, you will need one of those taller cake boxes that are normally, like, I would say, let's say 10 by 8 is a good size to have a nice tall cake box. And you see, it all worked out. It all worked out. Just make sure that the cake is cold before you box it up, and make sure the cake is cold before you transport it, and it holds together well. That ganache drip sets really well. It never ran any more than it did here, which is why I like using ganache with real chocolate. Happy 30th birthday to my son.